up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, the overall is jam-packed show as we have a lot of volleyball to discuss, such as Mariposa, your 2026 CIF State Division I champions. And they're most likely going to be the national champions, which means they'll have won the Triple Crown again. Is Mariposa building a dynasty over there? We'll see. Also, the VNL kicks off this week on the women's side as Turkey-Italy will be the match that headlines the week. Will that match lead up to the hype? And will Italy continue its tear through the VNL? Also, the U.S. women's national team has been announced as they'll start off the VNL with a fairly reasonable slate. And the men's national team of the United States is pretty much going to be getting underway soon as they've got inter-squad scrimmage and they've got week 1 on the horizon. Also, week 1 of the ABC League is in the books as week 2 is this week. Family folks, set up the net. We're talking about Serbian mobile action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on iSports Radio. Your feed for all that sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday, wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way into episode 353 of Set Point. And without any further delay, let's begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without iSports Radio providing the platform to go live on YouTube and on X. Please do follow iSports Radio on X and subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. If you have subscribed to iSports Radio on YouTube, good for you. We're trying to reach 500 subscribers, and with your help, we could definitely make it happen. So please, please, please do subscribe to iSports Radio and follow them on X as well. Also, make sure to check out the website, iSportsRadio.com, for all of your sports news, our soon-to-be blog, which will be coming back soon, and all of your other sports needs when it comes to following all sports. For the last 12 years, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. A huge shout out to our sponsor, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. So without any further delay, let's get on into what our sponsor is all about. I will see you all in just a little bit.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
For the last 10 years, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at iSports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at iSports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out our sponsor and also check out our website as well. We appreciate our sponsor for being the official sponsor of iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. And the way you can follow Setpoint on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at @set_point.ie, and on TikTok. You can also follow me personally as well at Teran Rodriguez1. I'm also on Setpoint is also on Instagram at @set_point.iesr. And also, Setpoint is on Facebook as well. Just type in the word set and then point. And then if you see the beach volleyball icon that used to be my profile pic, that's who I am. So that's the official account of Setpoint on iSports Radio. So without any further delay, let's get on into the volleyball action. So we don't have too much to talk about, but we do have quite a bit to talk about. So yeah, I know that sounds like a little bit of an oxymoron, but I digress. So let's talk a little high school boys volleyball. So Miracosta, the CIF State Division I Boys Volleyball Championship featured Miracosta and Northgate. It was basically all chalk, as there were no upsets, which I got to give it up to the committee. They did a great job of seeding every team. So in both regions, the NorCal and Southern California region. But yeah, I will just say, I unfortunately, I couldn't really go to this match, but I did actually follow it. I did follow everything, and I did find out that Miracosta swept Northgate. I was able to watch via a live stream, so I was able to catch this. So I will just say, even though I couldn't attend in person, it was still a decent match. I mean, I kind of figured Miracosta was going to win. I'll give it up to Northgate in the third set. They were not backing down. It just kind of reminded me of last year's CIF State Championship match, where Miracosta wound up dominating the first two sets, and in the third set, the opposing team just wouldn't give up and they wouldn't back down. But eventually, Miracosta wound up winning the close set, and Miracosta is the 2026 CIF State Division I champion. So to start, I will just say, look, this Miracosta team is on a tear. They were supposed to have a down year, and that's because they lost quite a bit to graduation. They lost Thatcher Fallbush, Cooper Keene, Grayson Bradford. You know the song and dance. Andrew Chapin. They lost quite a bit to graduation last year. Alex Hines, I can't forget about that. I can't forget about him as well. So I'll just say this Miracosta team exceeded and shattered expectations. I was just utterly impressed by how this team just performed all season long. They only dropped 2 matches. One was the best 2 out of 3 match, which it was still early in the season. So Miracosta was still trying to get their bearings. And then the other was a 5-set heartbreaker on the road to Redondo Union, which there's no shame in losing to them. That team was definitely good as advertised. But yeah, Miracosta, I didn't get the final stats, unfortunately. Maybe they're on max preps, maybe not. I can't really be the judge, but they're around there somewhere. I mean, the only ones who have access to the CIF, the CIF State Division I boys volleyball stats are those that actually attended that attended the match, which it didn't really get a whole lot of media coverage. I mean, there was obviously the local newspapers, but unfortunately, it was just to no avail. So nobody really covered the match, and otherwise, I totally would have been there in attendance. Like if it wasn't in Fresno City College or anywhere in the NorCal area, I would have totally gone there. But unfortunately, that was not the case. And the reason why the CIF State boys volleyball playoffs are played in Northern, or this CIF State boys volleyball state championships is played in Northern California is because the girls volleyball gets the Southern California state championship, or the CIF State girls volleyball state championship gets to host, which I think is pretty cool if you ask me. But it is what it is, and yeah. So the girls state championship gets to be hosted by the Southern California, while the boys basically get to host in Northern California, which I think is pretty nice if you ask me. So all in all, what did I think of the match overall? I mean, Miracosta was just Miracosta. They were not losing by any means necessary. That being said, I kind of wish it would have gone at least 4. I wanted Northgate to make it a reasonable match, a respectable match, but unfortunately that was just not the case, and they sadly just could not keep up with the likes of Miracosta. So, all right, then it looks like the stats are actually on Max Preps. Unfortunately, I just realized this now, and sadly, I'm not signed into Max Prep. So, sadly, I guess we will not be seeing the statistics, but it is what it is. So, overall, look, Miracosta is just Miracosta. They were just absolutely astounding. So, they're just absolutely astounding. Nothing was getting in their way of winning the state championship. Although the 4th set was a little bit of a nail biter, and Northgate tried to make one final push, they were not losing. They were not losing by any means. So, look, I gotta give it up to Miracosta. They were just an amazing team all season long. And for Northgate, look, this was their first CIF State championship appearance, and this was their first time being one of the top dogs in Northern California. And Max Preps had them at number 2 in the nation. Now, the USA Today AVCA rankings actually did not have Northgate ranked, which, I mean, it is what it is. I can't really fault them. I mean, I'm not a part of the committee that ranks them, so there you have it. But I will say this for Northgate, they deserve a lot of credit for being there and for making it that far. I think this team definitely has some upside to them going forward. It's just that sadly they just kind of ran into a buzzsaw, which was the case for every team that played Miracosta that wasn't named Redondo Union that one day that they played at Redondo. But overall, Northgate deserves a lot of credit. They deserve their flowers. The fact that they got to the state championship was quite astounding. Jesuit definitely gave them a run for their money, although set 5s would like to say otherwise. But the same can be said for Loyola as well, Loyola Miracosta. So overall, for this Miracosta team, this team is looking awfully scary for next year. And honestly, I can't wait to see what they have in store for us, just because they returned Mateo Furbringer and Dane Del Rigo, Miles Crotty, Teddy Mandelbaum. The big thing is who's going to be setting for them, just because Jake Newman graduates, and then you've also got Wyatt Davis that graduates, as well as Enzo Barker and Colby Graham. So they do lose some key pieces. And I will say this for Miracosta, some of their key pieces obviously return, obviously, with Mateo and Dane. They're Division I bound players. They don't have as many Division I bound players as they did last year. I mean, Wyatt Davis is obviously playing at UC Santa Barbara, but most of their seniors, I don't think, will be playing at a 4-year unless they'll be playing at the JUCO level. But it is what it is. So honestly, I think for Miracosta, they have a chance to repeat. I mean, if they can develop their young guys from the lower levels, they're for sure going to three-peat as state champions. And you also got to remember that they wound up winning the state championship, and this is probably going to make them national champions. I would be surprised if they were not national champions, because they've been practically number one throughout most of the season. I mean, I don't know where they started off at the beginning. Maybe it was Loyola at number one, but Miracosta, look, I will even say that Miracosta was an afterthought of being number one, just because I didn't think they would have this amazing season. I thought maybe they would make it interesting in terms of being number one, but the fact that they were dominant and the fact that they only dropped 2 sets all postseason in the Southern Section playoffs and in the state playoffs speaks to high volumes of how good this team really is. And I think this team deserves a lot of credit. This team is the golden standard. I mean, they wound up winning CIF championships way before now, back when Michael Cook was their head coach. So there you go. So expect Miracosta to possibly repeat as state champions next year, just because Mateo Furbringer is obviously returning. Dane Del Rigo, like I mentioned. The only question marks I have are the opposite position, but I think Teddy Mandelbaum can fill that void, though I think he's an outside. But overall, I think for Miracosta, they're just going to have their way next year. I would be shocked if they somehow didn't repeat as champions. So I think overall, Miracosta, they're building something. They're building a dynasty. And you also got to remember, Greg Snyder took over in 2024 following Avery Drost stepping down just to pursue other greener pastures. So Greg Snyder has taken Miracosta to 3 CIF Southern Section championships in Division I, which you got to remember, all 3 of the years that he's only been head coach for 3 years. Miracosta's also won the state championship the past 2 seasons in Division I, and they've also been national champions. The only exception was his first year as head coach, which, I mean, they had the talent. It's just that Loyola obviously had Sean Kelly, so there was no way in heck that Loyola was losing that year. But overall, I think that this Miracosta team is basically on the run. They're on the verge of. They'll probably be heavy favorites to win the state championship next year. I mean, there are going to be a few other teams that could contend. I mean, Loyola is obviously going to be a contender. I mean, they had a massive turnaround from last year. Huntington Beach is definitely going to be up there with Logan Hutnick and Carter Tchaikovsky. I'm trying to think of other teams that I think can contend. Redondo's going to lose a lot to graduation. Corona Del Mar is going to lose a lot to graduation. Santa Margarita is going to be a team that's going to contend next year, because that team didn't even have Will Spalding, one of its top players this year. I think he was deemed ineligible that year, but next year he's going to be eligible and he's going to be playing. And yeah, Santa Margarita is going to be up there in terms of talent. I think this team is I think Santa Margarita will definitely be up there in talent. And then honestly, I think who else? Tesoro was going to lose a lot to graduation. But that's pretty much who I think is going to be contending for a CIF Southern Section Division I championship. But we shall see going forward. But that'll basically do it for everything in terms of high school boys volleyball. I mean, there's still other state tournaments going on. I think Chicago's wraps up this year. Marist is obviously up there in terms of contention. They're not going anywhere. Marist is probably going to dominate and win in the highest division, which I think is pretty darn awesome if you ask me. And then obviously you've got other states happening. So looking at the national rankings for pretty much the one last time, Archbishop Moeller from Ohio jumped from number 8 to number 2, which I think is pretty nice. Northgate dropped to number 1. Columbus of Florida is number 4. Roncalli of Indiana, they actually jumped up 4 spots. Huntington Beach is number 6. Loyola is 7. That's interesting because Loyola beat Huntington Beach twice. So I kind of think you should flip-flop Loyola Huntington Beach. And then you've got Corona Del Mar 8, St. Xavier of Kentucky 9, Perry of Arizona 10, and then so on and so forth down the line. So yeah, that's pretty much that for the high school boys volleyball scene. If I see any other state championships, I'll let you all know. But I actually feel bad for not getting the stats. If I had known that the stats were posted, just because Max Preps is an unreliable game changer, as some people call it, I would have definitely had those stats printed out. But it is what it is. So there you have it. That is that for the high school boys volleyball scene. So let's actually jump to a little AVP. So week 1 recap of the AVP League. So in terms of the AVP League, week 1 is already in the books. The AVP League actually made history, as there was actually one set that actually was the longest set. And I think that was courtesy of one of the teams that played this week. And that was on the men's side, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the men's side. But get into that a little bit later. But the first match of the 2026 AVP League was the San Diego Smash and the Los Angeles Launch. So on the women's side, we had Maddie Anderson and Elena Chacon taking on Megan J. Rice and Gina Arango. In the end, the LA Launch took down the San Diego Smash. So in the first AVP League match for Chacon and Anderson, they both wound up winning in dramatic fashion, winning in 3, with the third set being 16-14, which I thought was pretty cool. And I guess there's a little bit of a rivalry just because they're both from Southern California. So that's pretty cool right there. And then on the men's side, you had Hagen Smith and Logan Weber of the LA Launch, as well as Chase Budinger and Miles Evans of the San Diego Smash. And Budinger and Evans wound up salvaging a win for the Smash, outlasting the Launch 16-14, 6-15, and 14-16, 15-6, and 15-13. So the AVP League is as follows. So the sets are to 15 points, and I don't think that there's a timeout. I don't think there's any like media or technical timeouts. I think you just play until you reach 15. I don't think there's any timeouts in general. I just think that there's like side switches at every 5 points. But I think it's pretty cool. You don't like spend a whole lot of time in the match, and you just keep the whole thing going. It's not just drawn out, which I think is pretty nice. So the next matchup we had was the New York Nitro and the Brooklyn Blaze. On the women's side, which started off the whole thing, was Tony Rodriguez and Molly Shaw as they took on Lexi Denneberg and Julia Donlin. In the end, we got another 3-set thriller, but Donlin and Denneberg, last year's AVP League champions on the women's side, they took down Rodriguez and Shaw 12-15, 15-12, and 15-13. So pretty nice matchup right there. Pretty down-the-wire matchup right there between Donlin and Denneberg. And then on the men's side, we had Theo Brunner and Kame Schulk of the New York Nitro taking on Derek Bradford and Evan Corey of the Brooklyn Blaze. And this time, the Nitro got the better of the Blaze as they took down the Nitro, as Brunner and Schulk took the win, winning at 15-12, 14-16, and 15-13. Another 3-set barn burner. So both of these pairs believed in a lot of amazing, in terms of like thrilling matches. And here's the point total when it comes to this whole thing. So if you sweep a match, you get 3 points. If you win a match in 3, you get 2 points. And then if you lose a match in 3, then you get 1 point. The point system kind of comes into play down the line, but it's not going to be as of right now. So overall, it's not anything to hit the panic button if you are not in first place, but I digress. So then day 2, we had the LA Launch taking on the New York Nitro, where Maddie Anderson and Elena Chacon took on Tony Rodriguez and Molly Shaw. In the end, Chacon... Sorry, a little bit of a frog in my throat. In the end, Anderson and Chacon took down Rodriguez and Shaw in a 3-set barn burner, winning the match 15-12, 13-15, and 22-20. So that match was the one that had the longest set in AVP League history, which I thought was pretty cool. So not bad for a debut for Anderson and Chacon. Remember, this is their first AVP League event, and the fact that they wound up going 2-0 is pretty impressive. So they managed to salvage 2 points for the LA launch, while the Nitros, Teran Rodriguez and Molly Shaw, they salvaged just 1 point. And then on the men's side, you had Hagen Smith and Logan Weber of the LA launch taking on Theo Brunner and Kame Schulk of the New York Nitro. In the end, Hagen Smith and Logan Weber they swept Theo Brunner and Kame Schulk 18-16 and 15-8, which I thought was pretty nice. So the first non-3-set match of the AVP League went to the LA launch. So good job to the launch. They actually went 3-1 overall, and they escaped with 8. Well, okay, escape. Okay, that actually is a good word to use. Escaped, I think, is the perfect word to use just because, well, they needed to grind out some of their matches. So the fact that they escaped with 8 points is a pretty successful weekend, if you ask me. And then the last match of the weekend, or the last matches of the weekend, were the Brooklyn Blaze and the San Diego Smash. You had Lexi Denneberg and Julia Donlin taking on Megan J. Rice and Gina Arango. And this time, last year's AVP League champions on the women's side did not pull off the win. It was actually Megan Rice and Gina Arango pulling off the win, as they wound up winning in the new longest or most scoring set of AVP League history, 24-22 and 15-11. So yeah, it went from history. Maddie Anderson and Elena Chacon went from making history to passing the history off to Gina Arango and Megan J. Rice. So Rice and Arango wound up earning 3 points for the San Diego Smash while holding Brooklyn to 0 points. And then on the men's side, you had Derek Bradford and Evan Corey taking on Chase Budinger and Miles Evans. And Budinger and Evans wound up winning the match in a 3-set barn burner, 21-19, 12-15. I'm sorry, 19-21, 15-12, and 15-7. So there you have it. And because Budinger and Evans wound up winning that match in 3, they got 2 points, while Corey and Bradford both got 1. So overall, the LA launch and the San Diego Smash left with 8 points and a 3-1 record, while the Brooklyn Blaze and the New York Nitro both left with 4 points and a 1-3 record. So overall, that is pretty much that right there. And yeah, so yeah, here's actually the whole gameplay of the AVP League. Matches are best 2 out of 3, just like regular AVP matches. Tie-breaking points for each league match: 3 points for a 2-set win, 2 points. Game points for each league match: 2 out of 3, must win by 2 points in each set. Okay, so yeah, basically the same rules. I still don't think there are any timeouts. I just think there are side switches. If not, there's probably at least one timeout, but I digress. So there you have it right there. That is pretty much that for week 1 of the AVP League. Now we jump on into week 2 of the AVP League. So we go from Belmar, New Jersey, and then we'll be hitting the road to Aspen, Colorado. So that's pretty cool. So Colorado, if you're in the Colorado area, definitely do support the AVP League. I will say this about the AVP League. It kind of does bite that the AVP had to have their whatchamacallit, their thing on they had to stream it via their YouTube, which I don't necessarily agree with, but thankfully for them, thankfully they were featured on CBS, and I think they were featured on the CW. And I think that was just day 2. So overall, for those that have to watch on the YouTube, I mean, it's not as glamorous as watching on national TV or in person. But I will also just say, it's kind of, I wouldn't say sucky, but the amount of bleachers that were provided when it comes to the AVP League, it doesn't do it any justice. But it is what it is. If you're in the area and you're out to support the AVP, definitely do so. But I digress. So this week, the 4 teams that will be playing are the Brooklyn Blaze, the Miami Mayhem, the New York Nitro, and the Palm Beach Passion. So that's pretty cool right there. So you have that right there. And we actually know a couple of these teams already. We actually know who the Brooklyn Blaze and the New York Nitro is, but we actually have two new teams that will be entering the fray. So, and they actually have some new players on their roster as well. So here we go. Let's meet the teams for both of them. So we already know who the New York Nitro is: Teran Rodriguez, Molly Shaw, Kame Shulk, and James Shaw. And then the Brooklyn Blaze: Lexi Denneberg, Julia Donlin, Derek Bradford, and Evan Corey. But now let's meet the Palm Beach Passion. So yeah, Palm Beach Passion, Miami Mayhem, Brooklyn Blaze, and New York Nitro. Those are the four teams partaking. So Palm Beach Passion. The Palm Beach Passion are as follows: Melissa Jimena Paredes and Brandy Wilkerson. As we all know, those are the two Olympic medalists from Canada that won silver in beach volleyball, which I thought was pretty cool. They also wound up winning gold in the beach volleyball world tournament from this past weekend. But more on that a little later. But they're also finalists from last year's AVP League Championship on the women's side. So I thought it's pretty nice right there. But Wilkerson and Jimena Paredes, they're obviously a great duo with one another, and their team chemistry is only going to get better and better. And then also, to round off the Palm Beach Passion lineup, or the Palm Beach Passion roster, Trevor Crabb and Phil Dahlhauser. So Trevor Crabb was named the 2025 AVP MVP, and that was supposed to be his swan song, or his final year in the AVP, but I guess he had other plans, which I thought was pretty nice. But yeah, Trevor Crabb, he is obviously the brother of Taylor Crabb. And I will say this for Dahlhauser and Trevor Crabb. They were the ones that wound up winning the AVP League last year on the men's side. So I thought that was pretty nice right there for Dahlhauser and Crabb. They're kind of the OGs when it comes to the AVP League. And Phil Dahlhauser is a 2008 Olympic gold medalist for the United States, which I think is pretty nice. Really talented player, and I thought he was supposed to call it a career, but I guess it's probably on the U.S. side. So I guess he's not going to partake in any more U.S. events, and he'll just partake in the AVP. But I digress. So that's the Palm Beach Passion right there. A lot of Olympic royalty right there. And Trevor Crabb, I think, was an Olympian as well, as I think he was in 2016 with his brother Taylor. But I digress. Anyway, for the Miami Mayhem, so we have Kelly Cheng, who was the 2023 world champion, 2024 Paris Olympian for the United States in beach volleyball, and I can name a two-time national champion for USC. Obviously, got to mention that. And overall, she's put herself on the map. And then Megan Kraft was last year's 2025 AVP Best Server, and she is a four-time national champion from the University of Southern California, aka USC. So there's Megan Kraft and Kelly Cheng right there. They're hopefuls for the LA Olympics in 2028. And then rounding off the Miami Mayhem lineup on the men's side, you have Taylor Crabb, a six-time AVP Best Defensive Player, and also 2016 Olympian. And then you have Andy Benish, a 2024 Paris Olympian for the United States with Miles Partain. So Benish and Crabb are kind of a mixture of youth and I wouldn't say oldness, but youth. It's mainly experience. It's Andy Benish, who's still kind of a young pup, but he's one of the more experienced young pups. And then Taylor Crabb is kind of the OG who knows the AVP's ins and outs, and he's been through the block when it comes to the AVP and all that sort of thing. So you have that right there, and I like how the AVP website says, stay hydrated, bring your water flask or refillable water bottle, enjoy one of our many refill stations on site to stay hydrated. Yes, it is getting hot now because summer is fastly approaching, and also pack your sunscreen as well. Don't be like me who decided not to pack sunscreen for the Huntington Beach Open, but I digress. So yeah, nothing really out of the ordinary when it comes to, here's the event details. Week 2 takes us to Aspen, Colorado at the base of the slopes. This incredible backdrop with top-level beach volleyball competition is an event you won't want to miss this season. The event location is 120 West Cooper Avenue in Aspen, Colorado. So the schedule is as follows. Saturday, June 6th at looks like 2 p.m. Mountain Time. So all these times are in Mountain Standard Time. So meaning if you're in the Pacific West Coast like me, it'll be 1 hour sooner. But 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, you've got the Palm Beach Passion versus the Miami Mayhem on the women's side. And then at approximately 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, you got the Palm Beach Passion and the Miami Mayhem on the men's side. And by the way, that 3 p.m. matchup between the Palm Beach Passion and the Miami Mayhem on the men's side, it's going to be a crab boil. It's going to be Taylor Crabb versus Trevor Crabb, which I think is pretty cool right there. So the Crabb brothers will be doing battle with one another. Just when we thought we were going to be done with the crab boilers or crab boils, whatever it's called, we get at least one more of these, one or two more of these. And I'm excited for it. I'm all for seeing the Crabb brothers go at one another. And then at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, you got the Brooklyn Blaze on the women's side. And then and then approximately an hour after that, you've got the Brooklyn Blaze versus the New York Nitro on the men's side. So I think it's pretty cool right there. You got yourself a nice little New York battle. And then you've got the battle for Florida. I will say this. I kind of am against some of these matchups being on CBS Sports and then some of these matchups being on the YouTube of the AVP. I mean, for the YouTube, you don't have to pay to watch it, but if you have if you don't have CBS Sports or the CW, then you're up a creek without a paddle. But look, we need the AVP to continue to do well. We need them to generate a lot of revenue. We also need them to climb up the food chain, just because I'm seeing a lot of articles saying that the AVP is starting to lose its luster and all that sort of thing. I mean, I'm still going to cover it just because the AVP needs its coverage and whatnot. But we need the AVP to rise up in terms of the stock. But I digress. That's why if you're in the area when it comes to the AVP, in terms of Aspen, Colorado, go check out this event. Go support the AVP. If you're complaining and saying the AVP is just losing its luster, then you're part of the problem, and you got to do something to promote it. Whether it's buying someone a ticket or reporting on it, like me, or doing anything of that sort. Just support the AVP as much as you possibly can. All right, but that'll do it for the AVP League. The AVP League Week 2 preview. So after this, Week 3 is going to take us to... Let's go back. It's going to take us to Miami, then Las Vegas, and then Long Beach, which I imagine I'm going to be there. Though I'm going to be requesting a lot of time off, but I digress. Anyway, but that'll do it for the AVP portion of the show. And we're going to take ourselves a quick little commercial break. When we come back, we've got some USA volleyball to discuss, and we've got a little VNL to discuss. So keep it locked here. You were listening to and watching Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at iSports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out all of our amazing content when it comes to iSports Radio. And if you want me to do like off-season content, then definitely let me know, or maybe do like some flashback Fridays or throwback Thursdays, just because I have quite a bit of that stuff, quite a bit of videos in my my photos and videos app. But I digress. But welcome back to the second half of Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. All right, let's take it on over to the women's side of USA Volleyball. So last week, the U.S. women's national team announced its Week 1 VNL roster. So your roster is as follows. Micah Hancock at setter, Avery Skinner at outside hitter, Morgan Hentz, libero, Asia O'Neal, middle blocker, Lexi Rodriguez, libero, Simone Lee Wank, outside hitter, Sage Kahahina Torres, setter, Jordan Thompson, opposite, Anna Hall or Anna Stevenson Hall, middle blocker, Rachel Fairbanks, setter, Maddie Kubik Banks, outside hitter, Molly McCage, middle blocker, Logan Eggleston, outside hitter, Stephanie Samity, opposite, and Sammy Francis, middle blocker. So that's basically your entire roster for the Week 1 of the United States women's national team for the VNL. So honestly, here's the thing. The U.S. women's national team comes in at number 7 in the world. So if I accidentally say number 7 in the nation, I apologize. I'm still on the NCAA volleyball train. I need to get off that train, and I need to get on the world volleyball train. But anyway, the U.S. women's national team is ranked number 7 in the world, and obviously they're the reigning Olympic silver medalists, which soon that's not going to be mattering all that much. They've won the VNL 3 times. But, and you also got to remember that the VNL started out in 2018. But ever since then, Italy has caught up to the United States as they've won 3, count them, 3 VNL titles. So, wait, hello? They lost. I thought last year they lost to Italy. It says, Oh, well. Anyway. Okay. Gotta bring it back. So yeah, for the women's national team, first and foremost, I like how all of these players are players that I did not interview. I did not interview one of these players. I mean, Skinner did not play. Morgan Hentz did play. O'Neal, I think, did play. I think she played. I'm not sure. Rodriguez played. Simone Lee played. Kahina Torres played, Thompson played, Hall played, Fairbanks played. I don't think Maddie Kubik played, but I digress. Molly McCage played, Logan Eggleston played, Samity played, Sammy Francis played. Micah Hancock Micah Hancock did actually play. But yeah, of all of the, I did not interview one of those players at the red-blue scrimmage at Miracosta High a couple weeks ago. Well, that would only be my luck, because the players I interviewed were Andy Jackson, Bergen Riley. By the way, congratulations to her on her recent engagement. Kendall Kipp, and Claire Hoffman. Oh, and I also interviewed Eric Sullivan. Gotta throw that in there as well. But yeah, of course I would not interview. I would interview the players that did not make it onto the Week 1 VNL roster. I'm surprised Jordan Poulter isn't on this roster. I'm kind of surprised, just because Poulter is a very good setter, but maybe she's kind of maybe she has a little bit of an injury because of the League 1 volleyball, but I'm not sure. But yeah, that's pretty much your Week 1 roster. I mean, it's a solid roster. It's mainly a little bit inexperienced, as according to the USA lineup, 13 of the 15 athletes have previous VNL experience, and 3 are Olympians. 3 of the 15 athletes on the team have VNL experience. This team's kind of going to struggle. I don't want to say that in a negative way, but golly, this team is going to struggle. I think this team is going to have some growing pains to start, but as long as they're on the path of everything they want to do, that it has to be gold, they ought to be fine. And I hear this all the time from Eric Sullivan, and I guess a lot of people do too. I am on the Eric Sullivan train. I am team pro Eric Sullivan. But again, I can only defend him if people I can only defend him for so long. I mean, I'll defend him until the cows come home. And I think everyone needs to also give him some time. But thankfully, he will never stop learning, as the old saying goes. And I did interview a coach recently that did say, you never stop learning, just because. And I actually like that passion, or I actually like that answer. I think that has to be like a John Wooden quote or something, but I digress. But yeah, Micah Hancock was part of the 2025 Olympic team that won silver. Rachel Fairbanks and Sage Kahina Torres were part of last year's VNL season. Lexi Rodriguez and Morgan Hens were the backbone of the U.S. defense in 2025, playing throughout the season. Okay, so there's hope for this. Okay, so there's hope. There's a little experience, but the middles, Anna Hall, Molly McCage, and Asia O'Neill have been part of the VNL rosters, while Sammy Francis is one of two players making her debut. Two-time Olympian Jordan Thompson returns to the team at opposite after taking 2025 off, and she's joined by Stephanie Samity. The outside hitters are 2024 Olympian Avery Skinner, Logan Eggleston, and Simone Lee, and VNL newcomer Maddie Kubik Banks. And there you go. That's pretty much all the info. So I think this team is going to have some growing pains, but as long as they get their feet wet and they get the experience and they start learning on the fly, I think this team will be fine. This team does have a pretty good coaching staff with Eric Sullivan. Yes, I think Eric Sullivan can take this team pretty far because the talent is there. It's just a matter of putting the right talent on the court. And I think that's what everyone has a gripe with Sullivan about. Eric Sullivan's got to put the correct six on the court. And then the assistant coaches are Taiba Hanif Park, Long Beach State alum, Brandon Taliaferro, former UCLA assistant coach on the men's side, Rob Browning, Virginia Pham, friend of the show of Set Point. And yeah, well, Virginia Pham is the statistician, so I digress in that regard. But still, friend of the show right there. But yeah, all of the matches will be shown on Volleyball TV. So there you go. And also, Emily, former set point guest and friend of the show, Emily Eamon, will also be on call for the VNL. So it's going to be the fourth time she's going to be doing that, which I think is pretty awesome sauce. I really hope I can one day see it. Well, I've met her in person. It's just that, unfortunately, I never got a chance to take a picture of her, which is just bleh. But that was back when I was a novice of not knowing how to get credentials, but I digress. Anyway, so now that we're on the topic of the U.S., let me know your thoughts of the roster. I think it's a young roster, but I think it's a roster that has a high ceiling. I think this team can be boom or bust, but I think there'll be more of a boom, if you ask me. A boom in a good way, but you know what I mean. But anyway, now let's preview the women's VNL. This is it. This is the day of summer. So with no NCAA volleyball, with high school volleyball season done, it's just now VNL and the AVP. So now we've got week 1 of the VNL, which I think is going to be awesome sauce. So the first matchup, there are actually going to be 3 different places, 3 different locations where week 1 of the women's VNL is going to be taking place. In if I mispronounce any of these words, I apologize. Nanjing, China, and then you've got Quebec City, Canada, and then you've got Brasilia, Brazil. So basically, China, Canada, and Brazil are the first stops of the VNL on the women's side. So the first matchup, you got Belgium versus Poland. This one's going to be an interesting matchup. Poland is definitely a good team. And it's the number 14 ranked team in the world versus in Belgium versus the number 4 ranked team in Poland. I think this definitely has the potential of being a solid matchup, but I think Poland should win this one. If Poland is as good as they were last year, I think Poland should beat Belgium. I would be shocked if this. I mean, maybe Belgium can make Poland sweat a little, but. And obviously, I think there could be some jitters from both teams. But honestly, I think Poland should handle this matchup. I just see how Poland has a lot of talent. And yeah, I just feel that this team has a lot of upswing when it comes to them, when it comes to their side. So that's the first matchup. Then the next matchup, you got Thailand versus Serbia. Okay, so not involving a a highly ranked matchup, as you got the number 18 Thailand taking on the number 9 ranked Serbia. Serbia, in my mind, is a very underrated team. I think Serbia is very underrated. My thing is, for Serbia, I feel they're kind of also a boom or bust thing. I think Serbia, in my mind, can definitely make some noise in the VNL, and I think they're definitely the type of team that gives a lot of the big time teams a little bit of a tough time. That said, they're facing Thailand, and I imagine they should win. If they don't win against Thailand, then we've got problems. Sorry about that. And the next matchup, you got China versus Czechia. So number 6 ranked China takes on number 15 ranked Czechia. All right, so China is on its way back up to the top after having a little bit of some of a bumpy road. Well, Czechia is still kind of trying to get up off the ground. I mean, last year Czechia had themselves a solid VNL, I think. I'm certain. I digress. But I think China should be able to handle this matchup. I mean, I think China, unless China is like on the young side, I'm certain they should handle Czechia. On paper, China looks like they should be able to handle this matchup really well. I mean, I can't imagine China losing to Czechia. But you never know what can happen in week 1. There could be some week 1 madness. Then the next matchup, you got Ukraine versus the United States. So the Ukraine is number 16 in the world, while, like I mentioned earlier, the United States is number 7 in the world. If the U.S. finds some way to lose, I will not be happy by any means. If the U.S. loses to Ukraine, I swear by all that is holy, there might be a angry rant from me. Look, this has to be a win for the United States. They need to take all the wins that they can get. This might be the one that they need. Ukraine, no offense to them, I don't think they're that good. I think the U.S. should be able to handle this matchup because the week 3 of the VNL for the United States on the women's side, it's going to be tough. That final week of the VNL for them, it's a gauntlet. So they better start taking advantage of the matchups that they should win and not have to deal with win now mode in week 3. Sorry about that. Got a little bit of hiccups. But this is no disrespect to Ukraine. I just think that the United States should be able to handle this matchup. The only way they don't win this matchup is if Eric Sullivan puts the wrong players on the court. But I digress. All right, next up, you got the Dominican Republic and Turkey. All right, so this is number 11 Dominican Republic taking on number 3 Turkey. So this one, I think, is a very, very, very good matchup. So according to Key Michael, if you follow her on Instagram, you will see that she has Turkey as a dark horse. While I agree with that sentence, I think Turkey is actually more than a dark horse. They're not a dark horse. They're one of the favorites to win this whole thing. And I think, and I will quote this and quote me on this, I think Turkey can podium when it comes to this year's VNL. And I'm sure I'm going to get quoted by TMZ volleyball for Turkey, but I digress. But yeah, I think this Turkey team definitely has a lot of potential, and they actually just had a friendly matchup against Italy where they wound up winning 3-0. Although it was unofficial, and although Italy did play most of its young players, Turkey looked impressive. Now they got to carry that momentum into week 1 of the VNL. So there you go. I think Turkey is definitely going to beat Dominican Republic, but I think Dominican Republic I think you better buy stock in the Dominican Republic as much as possible. It's just that I think Turkey is going to win. But we'll see. Then the next matchup, you got Italy versus Bulgaria. Oh, man. Italy is the number 1 team in the world. I would say they're the best in the nation, but that's not doing them justice. They're the best in the world. They're number 1, and I think they went undefeated in the VNL last year. I think they've won like 31 matches dating back to last year's or the Olympics from 2024. Either way, they're on a tear when it comes to this whole thing. I think they've won like to 29 or 31 matches in a row, something along those lines. This Italy team is on a tear. And the first matchup is against the 25th ranked Bulgaria. I don't need to say anything more. I will just say Bulgaria has nothing to lose, but at the same time, it's like you're facing the number one team in the world. This one has mismatch written all over it. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. Anyway, so next up, you got France taking on Japan. So 13th ranked France taking on 5th ranked Japan. All right, Japan, in my eyes, is probably one of the more dangerous and underrated teams. This one, I think, can be a dark horse. But it all depends. They did lose quite a bit of player. I think one or two of their players did, I think, retire or move or eventually moved on. I'm not sure. France is kind of one of those on-the-rise teams. They're not bad, but they're kind of in that limbo where I don't think they'll be top 8. But you never know. I honestly think Japan should be able to win this. I mean, if they don't, then we have a problem. So there you have that matchup right there. Then next matchup, we got a top 10 matchup. You got number 2 Brazil, the host team, taking on Netherlands. Oh boy. Netherlands, this would be a good matchup. And I think it will be. The problem is that Brazil is at home and the Brazil fans show up. Brazil fans show up to the VNL to support their team. Netherlands is a good team. I just don't think that they're going to stack up well against Brazil. I think Brazil definitely has a lot of firepower on that team of theirs. And there's a reason why they're number 2. They obviously want redemption for what happened last year where they lost to Italy. But this Brazil team, this one is probably one of the matches to watch for. I mean, there's another that's coming up, but Brazil-Netherlands is a very sneaky good matchup to watch for. And then the next matchup you got Canada versus Germany. So how do I describe this matchup? Canada is obviously the host team, but here's the thing. Canada-Germany is kind of one of those matchups. I mean, it should be good, but it's like both of these teams I don't really see making a push for the VNL top 8 or the VNL playoffs. I mean, Canada has the luxury of not leaving their humble abode where they will be playing at home. That said, Germany is hungry to try to prove itself as a top 8 team. Here's the thing. I don't know if both these teams have a semi-high ceiling. I just think they have a lower floor. I just don't think both of these teams scream contender in my eyes. So I think for Germany, I want to say they have a good shot at winning, but you never know with Canada. This one's a 50-50 match. A 50-50 match. I think this one's a pick'em. I mean, Canada has the home court, but Germany obviously has the better ranking. I think they definitely have a lot of good talent. I think this year's Canada team is pretty talented as well, but we shall see. And then and that's pretty much the first few matchups. And then you've got Poland, Czechia. Okay. This one Poland should win this one. So I'm just gonna go rapid fire with this. Poland, Czechia, I'm pretty sure Poland will win. Then you got China, Thailand. China should win that one. Turkey, Netherlands. This one is going to be good. I think Turkey, Netherlands is going to be a barn burner of a matchup. It's a top 10 matchup. Here's the thing about Turkey. I think they definitely have the potential to win this one, but Netherlands is going to make it tough on them. So do not sleep on Netherlands by any means. I saw them in the friendlies against the United States. They're a darn good team. Then you've got Ukraine, Germany, which, I mean, Germany should win that one, but you never know with Ukraine. Then you got Brazil, Dominican Republic. I think that's a rivalry matchup right there. I want to say that is a rivalry matchup. And Dominican Republic's right outside the top 10. So if they're competitive against Brazil, they could possibly make a case of moving into the top 10, but we shall see. Then you got the United States versus Canada. Oh boy, this one's going to be a fun matchup. All right, the United States has got to win this one. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If the United States loses to Canada, then I'm going to feel so bad for Eric Sullivan because he's going to get a lot of backlash from a lot of these people in terms of like volleyball social media. So, I mean, I'm not going to be one of those people. I will never hate on a coach in terms of like the U.S. from the United States or anything of that sort, but I digress. And then next up, in terms of like June 5th, you've got Belgium, Czechia. Belgium is 14th, and then Czechia is 15th. So, okay, this one's not going to be as exciting. It could go either way, honestly. I mean, maybe Czechia wins. I'm not sure. Then you got Serbia, Poland. All right, this one's kind of a sneaky good matchup. Poland, obviously, as we all know, they're number 4, and then Serbia is number 9. It's a nice little top 10 matchup right here. I want to say this is also a rivalry matchup, but Serbia-Poland, I think, can be a really good matchup. It all depends on which Poland team shows up. Will we get the Poland team that looked good throughout the regular season last year in the VNL, or will we get the Poland team that kind of went down the toilet ASAP? But we shall see. Same can be said for Serbia. Serbia's kind of another one of those boomer bust teams. Then you got Dominican Republic, Bulgaria. Man, I really hate to say this, but Bulgaria might be on the borderline of relegation. I mean, Bulgaria is like, they have to be like the lowest ranked team in the VNL. And it's going to be tough for them. I mean, hopefully for their sake, they don't go winless or they don't get relegated. I think it's the bottom 2 teams that get no, it's not the bottom 2 teams. It's the worst team in the VNL gets relegated, and then the best team from the lower level, not the, I think it's like, I don't remember the VNL thing, but it's kind of like the NIVC of FIVB volleyball. It's like basically the promotion tournament where if you win that, you get promoted to the VNL. It's the Challengers Cup. I think that's what it's called, the Challengers Cup, but I digress. The winner of the Challengers Cup basically gets promoted to the VNL next year, but more on that way down the line. But yeah, Dominican Republic should beat Bulgaria. If they don't, then we got problems. Japan, Ukraine. Japan should win this one. I'd be shocked if Ukraine kind of gave Japan a run for their money. Netherlands, Italy is a very interesting matchup. This is another, God, Italy's got like a pretty, other than Bulgaria, they've got themselves quite a little bit of a gauntlet. And same can be said for Netherlands, because Netherlands has, who did they start off with again? Gosh. They start off with Brazil, and then don't they play Turkey? Yeah, they play Italy. Yeah, they've got, God, Netherlands starts off with the top 3 teams in the world. Brazil, the number 2 team, Turkey, the number 3 team, and then Italy, the number 1 team. So if in the event Netherlands somehow goes 0-3, that is not a reflection of who they are. Netherlands is a darn good team. It's okay. They also have Dominican Republic to close off the VNL, but still, Dominican Republic is no slouch either. That's a good team right there as well. So, God, Netherlands has like a gauntlet this week. Brazil, Turkey, Italy, and Dominican Republic. If they go 1-3 or 0-4, again, that's not Netherlands' reflection of their team. That's a reflection of who they faced. And that is a darn good schedule right there. And hopefully for the Netherlands' sake, it gets a little bit lighter, but we shall see. Then you've got France, USA. Again, the United States needs to take advantage of its winnable matches. Like, they've got to beat France. Like, they definitely have the potential to start 3-0. I mean, the 3-0 is probably a little bit questionable just because most of the teams there are ranked below, but we shall see. Then you got Thailand, Belgium. Yikes. This is, I wouldn't say this is a toilet bowl, but I'm going to say Thailand should win that one, but I don't know. Then you got China, Serbia, which is a better matchup. China, Serbia, this one that could go either way. I think China should win, though, just because China is definitely I think China is a little bit more consistent, but you never know with Serbia. Serbia, in my mind, is definitely one of those sneaky good underrated teams. Brazil, Bulgaria, Brazil. End of discussion. Italy, Turkey. This is the match of the week right here. Italy, Turkey is a very, 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 very good matchup. The number 1 team in the world versus the number 3 team in the world. This is the matchup you better be circling if you have volleyball TV. All right, so this is a good matchup very good matchup in my mind. And these two teams could meet one another in the VNL finals, but we shall see. I mean, Italy, and here's the thing. Italy's going to obviously have its true starters. They're not going to be playing their B or C team. They're going to be playing the A team, which kind of puts them at an advantage just because they now know what to expect with Turkey, who probably played their A team, if not a good chunk of their A team. But I digress. Then you've got Canada, France. Yikes. Canada. I'm sorry. That one it doesn't feel as appealing to me. I mean, it kind of can be good, but Germany, Japan. Japan should beat Germany, and then Czechia, Thailand. God, that one's going to be brutal. Well, brutal to watch. That one I think is a toilet bowl matchup. I'm sorry, but it kind of is a toilet bowl matchup. I'll say Czechia. And then the final day of the week 1 of the women's VNL, Belgium, Serbia. Serbia should beat Belgium. China, Poland. That one's a good matchup just because it's a top 5 matchup. Just because I think China is... Oh, no, it's a top 10 matchup. China is number 6, and then Poland is number 5. So it's a nice little 5-6 matchup. So definitely do not sleep on that matchup. Or is Poland 4? Either way, it's a top 10 matchup. That's what you got to know. It's gonna be a great matchup, and I think it's gonna be a very, very, very fun matchup. And I think you could expect maybe at least a 4-setter, maybe a 5-setter. But I digress. Okay, Poland is number 4. Poland's number 4, and then China is number 6. So it's a nice little 4 versus 6 matchup. Dominican Republic, Netherlands. Okay, Netherlands gets to face a team that's not ranked above them, but this team is pretty darn good. If Netherlands could come away with 1, if not 2 wins this week, Netherlands might actually be a good under-the-radar team. But this week is going to be the most brutal for Netherlands. Like I said, Netherlands, if they go 1-3, if not 0-4, that's not indicative of their record, or that's not indicative of their team. That team got dealt a really, really tough draw. Then Ukraine, France. Yikes, this one's a toilet bowl. I'll say France. Brazil, Italy. Oh boy. Okay, so remember when I said Turkey and Italy is the best matchup of the week? Brazil, Italy is the best matchup of the week. Number 2 in the world versus number 1 in the world. Brazil is going to have probably 10,000 fans in attendance because Brazil volleyball fans show up and show out. Italy, you better play your A team because this Brazil team is really going to come prepared. I think this Brazil team definitely has what it takes to win, but Italy is just on a tear. They've been on a tear ever since the Olympics, if not the 2024 VNL. So there you go. Then you've got USA, Germany. Believe it or not, the United States has a chance to go 4-0. Where's Germany is number 10, I want to say. Yeah, Germany's number 10. So it's a top 10 matchup. Here's the thing about the United States. I think this is kind of where their youth, I think, kind of gets tripped up. But they could also win this matchup. Like, the U.S. has maybe the most favorable schedule this week. All of their opponents are below them in terms of the world rankings. So the U.S. could honestly go 4-0 this week. They have to take it. Like I said, their schedule only gets tough from here on out, especially in week 3. So the United States has to win its matches, and they got to take advantage of the winnable matches. So you know what you have to do, Eric Sullivan and U.S. Then you got Bulgaria, Turkey. Turkey's going to win next. And then Canada, Japan. Japan's going to win next. Okay. This one could be kind of a good matchup. Canada is at home for its final match of the VNL in week 1. Japan, look, Japan, in my mind, I think is going to probably win with defense. And I think Canada does have a lot of good talent on their team. It's just that I think Japan has more experienced talent. But honestly, if Canada plays its cards right, they could actually go 2-2. 2-2 would not be bad for this team. It's just that we obviously don't want them beating the United States. We can't have that happening. But I digress. All right, but that is that right there for Canada and Japan when it comes to the entire women's VNL. It all starts late Tuesday, early Wednesday. That's where the VNL starts. So there you go. All right, but that is that right there when it comes to the women's VNL and when it comes to USA women's volleyball. So let's actually talk a little USA men's volleyball before we end the show off and I send you all on your way. All right, USA men's volleyball. So they actually will be kicking off the VNL next week, which I think is pretty cool if you ask me. But in addition to that, they will also be splitting up their roster. So half of their roster will be playing in the location of the first VNL week, and then the other half of the roster will be playing in an intra-squad scrimmage on Friday, June 12th at Cypress College. Now, it does kind of stink that this didn't get moved up a little bit earlier, but I guess maybe because Cypress College still had classes going on, just because I don't think the junior college classes, I think now the junior college classes are pretty much done unless, commencement ceremonies are pretty much done, but I digress. But yeah, last year's matchup was pretty darn good. It was a sold-out crowd. It nearly went 5. And yes, both teams were planning on playing best 3 out of 5. And yeah, it was a very fun matchup. And I got to interview quite a bit of players. I think I interviewed Gabby Garcia, Micah Christensen, and Karch Karai. But this I'm going to be excited for this. You already know I'm going to be there for the intra-squad scrimmage. I just need the green light from USA Volleyball. If they give me the green light, you already know I'm going to be there. I just don't want to show up at Cypress College and then for some weird reason they don't approve me for a credential. And if that's the case, then I'll be sad-faced. But I digress. I'm sure the United States, the USA Volleyball is going to approve me for a credential. I mean, if I pretty much put down I've been at past USA Volleyball events, which, it's hard to really deny a person a credential unless they were naughty, but I digress. But yeah, that's kind of some information right there. June 12th at Cypress College. Silly me, kind of forgot the time to include the time, so... Anyway, while I'm looking it up, you already know I'm going to be there just because, well, for starters, it's a good time to see some of the players. I mean, whether the players are kind of I wouldn't say the reserves, or the bench warmers, you're going to be meeting some amazing volleyball talent and some NCAA men's volleyball talent. So there you go. So it starts at 6 p.m. Okay, 6 p.m. So it's called the Stars and Stripes scrimmage. It's a U.S. men's national team, and it's going to be an intra-squad scrimmage at Cypress College. And tickets are on sale now. I sound like such a promoter for USA Volleyball. I'm not sure if it's going to be streamed or not. If it isn't going to be streamed, please do not ask me to stream this. I'm not going to, get in trouble and all that sort of thing. All right, but I digress. But I just want to throw that out there just because the U.S. men's national team is going to have that intra-squad scrimmage. Half of the roster will be in the VNL, while the other half will be in doing the intra-squad scrimmage in California, which I imagine the players that don't make the Week 1 VNL roster, they will be playing in the intra-squad scrimmage, which I think is pretty nice. Cypress College, I don't want to say it's going to be an upgrade. I think Miracosta High School is definitely a great venue. It's just a matter of if it's going to have enough seats. I mean, obviously commencement ceremonies are happening all over the place, like UCLA's. That same day where the U.S. men's national team is having their intra-squad scrimmage, UCLA is going to have their commencement ceremony, which shout out to Holly Wong. If you follow her on Instagram, you'll see that she pours in a lot of work. And she's also part of USA Volleyball. She's kind of one of their media people, where she basically just films and takes pictures. Her work is definitely unmatched. So if you're not following Holly Wong on Instagram, you definitely got to follow her. She's definitely great people. And I had the pleasure of knowing her back when she was at Long Beach State before she transferred to UCLA. But I digress. But anyway, yeah, congratulations in advance to Holly Wong, friend of the show of Set Point. I definitely appreciate it. And congratulations to everyone in terms of who's graduating. So I'll tell you all a quick story when it comes to my commencement ceremony, and then I'll send you all on your way. So my commencement ceremony came pretty much post-pandemic. So it was pretty much post-pandemic. We still were wearing masks, which was unfortunate, but we weren't basically isolated. If we had to have a virtual commencement ceremony, I would not have liked that. You only get one commencement ceremony per life, unless you're going for masters and whatnot. So overall, when it comes down, so for me, I got to graduate. I got to walk from Long Beach State, and I thought, and that was pretty nice if you ask me. Again, I still had to wear masks, but the fact that I walked was a long time coming, just because it took me quite a while to get out of college. But for those that are struggling in college, for those that are wondering if there's no light to the end of the tunnel, just know I made it. It took me quite a bit to get out of junior college. Eventually I did, and I eventually got through Long Beach State fairly quickly. And yeah, I think if I can do it, you can definitely do it too. And the big thing to know is it's not a matter of when you finish, it's if and how you finish. And you got to finish strong. So for those that are struggling, or for those that think that there's no light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to graduation or graduating college, there is. But yeah, I'm still hoping for that big break when it comes to myself and for Set Point, but I digress. But yeah, that'll basically do it for this week's episode of Set Point. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. Appreciate the 70 plus viewers that tuned in. I really do appreciate it. It really means a lot that you all tuned in. But until next week, have yourself a great rest of the week. Enjoy all the volleyball action. I will see you all next Monday for next week's show. Until then, have a great week and enjoy all the volleyball action that is happening. Also, once again, congratulations to those that are graduating or those that are transferring and moving on from the junior college level to the 4-year level. Salute from yours truly, Set Point. Take care, everybody.